Hey everyone, this is Matt.
And I'm Greg, and we'll be presenting Record Mashup to you this week. So, this week we have our theme of trains. So, we have The Train by OutKast, so Big Boy and Andre 3000. And then we have Midnight Train to Georgia by Glass Knight and the Pips. And Matt will be describing that one to you. So, we'll start off with The Train. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button while you're listening. Leave us a comment, leave us a message, just an email if you guys have any questions or comments throughout the podcast. But here is The Train. So it is OutKast's sixth studio album. Um, Additionally, it's the fifth single from the album Idlewild. So Idlewild's the album name, not to be confused with the movie. It's not a soundtrack for the movie, but the movie is also great. It does star Andre 3000 and Big Boy. Andre 3000 having a little bit of experience with the movies. He had he had filmed in 4 or 5 movies probably before that, but this is Big Boy's debut movie. The album does have a couple of songs that go with the movie, but a lot of the songs on it are separate songs. So make sure you check out both the movie and the album. Anyways, getting into the song, The Train, as I said earlier, is the fifth single, is actually the last official single for OutKast. I understand the song doesn't have Andre 3000 on it, and it was more, we'll be getting into it, but it was more of Big Boy's transition to his solo career. But it is the last OutKast song, official OutKast song. So there's a little bit of a tear there. I know a lot of people are OutKast fans, but all right, getting into it. So the song "The Train" it kind of highlights the whole history of OutKast, right? Going from how they
Yeah.
started, how they grew together, and then basically how they're now parting ways, and they had a successful career together and parting ways, and Big Boy going on to his separate solo career to have 3 successful albums so far.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely,
and
Greg. And I think that's a really great point. And I think it's funny. Obviously I've heard the song like Hey
yeah,
I remember but I think one of the things that was cool, you didn't even really have to know this band. All you gotta do is listen to this song. And I call them a band. I guess they're a band.
yeah.
All you got to do is listen to this song and you can hear their whole history from the time they started to this last studio album. It was pretty interesting biographical song in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's a lot of things. If you're an OutKast fan, you probably know all the things that I talked about in the song. It's very easy. But they did go through a lot of different things, hardships, ups, downs, whatever it may be. And you have to agree that they had a successful career. And some people even say that they're the best rap group, one of the best rap groups, if not the best out there. And a lot of people like giving credit to Andre 3000, even though he's not on the album or on this song, is one of the best lyrical rappers out there as well. But this does show that Big Boy himself has that talent also. But
Yeah.
we gave description to that song really quick. I do want to hand it over to Matt so he can quickly go over Glass Line and the Pips, and then we can start breaking down each song.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight and the Pips was released in August of 1973. It was released as part of the um, Imagination album by obviously Gladys Knight and the Pips. It was their second single to be released after they left Motown Records. So it was released under Budo Records. And it should be noted that the album version is actually a little bit longer than the single that was released, which is not uncommon, as we all know. But a great song. There's a really interesting story behind it that we'll get into in terms of when the song was written, and how the song was written. and it's gonna be fun to talk about and to compare these two songs like we've been doing every week prior. So really excited here in our third episode, and yeah, it's about trains. Let's get into it.
All right, thanks, Matt. So let's just jump into the train first, right? So getting into the lyrics, but there's a lot of just background to this. I think with the comparison here with Glass Night and the Pips is like it's a very simple story in Midnight Train to Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think also with The Train by OutKast, it's a very simple story, but there's a lot more anecdotes within it. So just starting off with the song right after the first couple of words, they kind of get into him talking about his daughter. So he had a daughter like really early on with OutKast, and if you've listened to any of his previous albums, he always talks about his sons and his daughters, and he's very proud of them. He's very family oriented, really proud of what they're doing. And actually, on the Speaker Box album, the dual album, so the last one before this was The Love Below, and Speaker Box shows a dual album. He actually has kids on the album, just as like a little skit on the album. So very family oriented, and just kind of shows like he wasn't ready to be a dad in this situation. So he's outright says that I wasn't ready to be a father, maybe kind of sorta, but like it shows you that back then he wasn't ready, but him growing as a person also, he kind of took it on to do that. And then from there he kind of talks about like he grabbed the mic and moved the crowd, then disappeared. So he started off rapping, and then it was when him and Andre 3000 actually met was when they actually started working together. So back in '94, he's talking about that was the year. So Southern Playalistic, one of their albums went platinum. So they got a lot of fame from that album, and it was their very first album, and they got financially had a lot of financial success from it. And that's where the next one goes into, where he's talking about they didn't tell us to pay our taxes. So they had a lot of financial issues because of it also, where they weren't paying their taxes. They weren't they were just spending it on needless things like cars and other things. They weren't investing it or spending it on houses or land or anything, which there's actually another song by Big Boy on his most recent album where he actually goes into that. His most recent album is Boomiverse. Very good album. Recommend you guys all listen to it. His song Order of Operations, he talks about how he first got famous, got a lot of money, spent it on cars, realized that he was wrong. Then the next year when they released their album, sorry, not the next year, but when they released their next album, ATLiens, which is also pointed on this song, they did make a lot of money, and he did properly start to invest it after that point. So he started to buy some land, buy a house and everything. So kind of goes into like, just because he has money from the album doesn't mean that he doesn't have like hardships because of financial reasons, because he's not financially smart.
Yeah,
So,
and I think, and that's a common problem you see not just with musical artists, but I mean athletes too. I mean, they're I know
athletes,
ESPN,
actors, anyone who hits fame, and they hit it too early because how old were they at this point? They were still fairly young. So that was 1994, and see, Big Boy was born in 75, so he was 19. So
I mean,
he's still a kid, you know?
Yeah. Someone that's going to hit the big time, at 19, just moving out, learning the world on your own, and yeah, like you said, actors, athletes, they all suffer with this problem. So it's nothing uncommon for someone that sees instant fame and fortune.
Yeah, and I don't think I would have invested my money. I didn't really care about investing money until I was maybe like 24 or 25, So and I'm
exactly
turning 30 this month, so it's only been like 5 years. So
yeah. No,
Um,
yeah, you're concerned about cars and
yeah, or,
partying
like
and
I might have bought a house, but it'd be
yeah.
like a really crappy house, you know. I'd be like, oh, where's
Yeah.
my car? Like I'm really into computers and everything. I would like buy like a $20,000 computer or something and just waste my money on nothing. Um, anyways, so from there he kind of goes into just walking around the kitchen, just always practicing his rhymes, always trying to get better at rapping. So very dedicated to his craft.
Yep.
And that's where we get into the chorus where it's been a long road. Time for me to go. Time to say goodbye. Basically, him saying, "Hey, it's been a long road. Like he's had so much happen over this time, but it's time for him to move on to the next big project. Whether even if that was another project with Andre 3000, or if it's by himself, or if it's with someone else. So
But
they have
Greg, I
a
think
very, yeah. What was that, Matt?
yeah, no, I agree. I think he's starting to say it's time for me to turn, to move on to the next big thing. But then we go down to the next verse,
Yeah,
and here he's saying they should have turned me loose. It was all about my team, but I now call upon my crew. It's almost like I don't know. I'm kind of reading into this a little bit, but it's almost as if he felt betrayed or backstabbed by someone on the team. Now, obviously, OutKast is still officially together.
yeah.
But there's this kind of underlying tone there that in this verse that perhaps there's a little bit more going on than meets the surface.
So his crew, like he has a lot of people. So with Outcast, there's also the Dungeon family. So Dungeon family, it's like it's a super group, right?
Okay.
So you have a lot of groups or artists from that area. So you have Outcast. I'm not sure. Have you ever heard of CeeLo Green?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he had a group called Goody Mob, and they were part of Dungeon Family. And then the one of the guys on here, Sleepy Brown, he does a lot of stuff like he's part of Organized Noise, which was like guys who did like some of the beats and things like that for Outkast and like those groups and stuff.
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of other people that are part of it, but like they're all part of Dungeon Family. And like, oh, what? I think it was last year or the year before. I actually went to a Dungeon Family concert, and all of them were there and everything, minus Andre 3000, basically.
That's
And
cool.
like that's his crew. Like that's who his team is.
Okay.
How I perceive that. And he
Yeah,
says he's a
but
family type of person, but he's deadly Dello too. So I know we skipped a verse in here and kind of jumped to the third verse, but what he's saying there is like he can do it in the group, but he can also do it by himself. So
yeah.
like he doesn't need the group to succeed. He can definitely do it by himself. And I think he proves that in this song uh, to show that he can.
Yeah, I guess yeah, and obviously as we've told our listeners before, rap is not my genre of choice. But as an outsider who doesn't understand that intimate knowledge of rap history and all the different uh,
Yeah, I would like to say that
groups.
I'm not a rap historian
Yeah.
or I listen to rap. I follow a couple of people. I know a little bit of background about them, and then I learn it through some of my other friends who are very like into the
Yeah.
rap scene and everything like that. So like, I will not say I'm a rap historian.
Yeah, and that's not what I was trying to suggest, but you certainly know a lot more about it than I. And just as an outsider, it's interesting to hear that information because I would not have perceived this song in that way. I mean, my perception of that lyric was that he was feeling a need for multiple reasons to have to go solo. It was not you know so I interpreted that lyric differently. So it's good to know
No,
that
no,
background.
I think there's like some underlying notes maybe into it like, hey, I don't want to go solo, but I do. Like I want to show that I can, and like I do. I think he just has like a love for like the music and everything, so he
Yeah.
continues to do that. And if you listen to his solo albums, he definitely does. And his first solo album, I loved it, and then his last one, really loved that one too. So out of all the solo stuff he's done, it's been some pretty good stuff. And I think because he says that he can still hit the stage and still rock by himself. Like he definitely can. Like and met the dude afterwards for like a couple seconds after the concert that I went to, and
Cool.
he's a great guy. Like he's very charismatic and upbeat, and definitely has a lot of energy to him.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I feel like we skipped the second verse, so I want to go back to that one.
Sorry about that. I was trying to make a connection.
No problem. Just going out of order today, it's loosey goosey. So he continues on from Southern Playlist at Cadillac Music, which is their first album, and then kind of goes back into AT Aliens. He was killing it, and then his auntie passed, so he was going back to that family oriented. It's not just like family oriented with like his like the people he's friends with or like the group that he's with, right? It's actually his family too. So very very close knitted with like his family, his auntie, and everything like that. So just showing that like he's a person too. Like like all these people are superstars and everything, but like they feel the same pain and everything that we do.
Yeah. And do you I interpret this next line here too. It's clearly not the first person in his life that he's lost, and he's clearly lost his dad and his grandfather as well. And so it's interesting. He clearly, I don't know what his relationship with his mother was like, but this, clearly his aunt was a mother-like figure to him in his life. And so it's interesting that kind of plays a part in this kind of buildup of him wanting to go towards his solo career.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think like his aunt replaced his mom or anything, but
No, I didn't mean it. I didn't.
Definitely just someone so close to him, and that's like the first time he really felt that pain. Yeah. And he kind of had to get through it, and like his way of getting through is singer as an angel, kind of guiding him, and then keeping with that, he's saying even it's your birthday on your worst day, so keep that like mentality, that feeling that like it's still a great day, even if it's a bad day. Like you're gonna get through it. It's still gonna be a good day, and you're gonna overcome that. Yeah. And then going into the next line, he's like, "Live it like first day." He's Antoine Andre, nicknames himself General Patton. He's got another side group called Purple Ribbon Gang, and then had a couple of songs from that got played on the air and had some success with that as well. So he had OutKast, has himself, and then he's got other groups such as the Purple Ribbon Gang and everything that he's producing himself. So he's got a lot of success in there. And even going with the third verse, which I know we went through a lot already, is that he's not going to flop, and that you can say whatever you want, but you're not going to stop him, basically. So there's a lot of a huge success story in his version of, or his take on the Train. Basically, like it's been a long time coming. Like there's a lot of stuff that's been happening, but now the Train's passing, and he's kind of moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great segue, I think, into the other song, Midnight Train to Georgia, which was not a success. Yeah, the exact opposite. It was a failure. So Midnight Train to Georgia. We'll go through that, and then we'll talk about the two songs together. So Midnight Train to Georgia, obviously we talked about this is, released in 1973 by Gladys Knight and the Pips. But it was not written by Gladys Knight. And I think this is, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this may be one of the first songs that we've done that was not written by the artist that we're talking about, or certainly.
Yes. And I will say that was common for like the Motown record era and those types of groups where other people who may not have the singing talent, or maybe they do and they just pass the song off to someone else. But yeah, someone else writes the song and then they get that group. Like that happened a lot with a lot of other groups like the Temptations and people like that too as well.
Yep, and it still happens today. It's not, there's a number of people that are just, their job is to be a songwriter,
And there's
and
nothing wrong with it, because
yeah,
writing the song and performing the song, two completely separate
absolutely,
things. If you can write the song and perform the song itself, like that's something good for you. But like maybe you're not talented at writing things, but you can play your heart out. That two completely different things. Very hard to do both.
absolutely. So Midnight Train to Georgia was actually a song written by Jim Weatherly. And what's interesting, and Greg, I know you found this too, the song was not originally called Midnight Train to Georgia. It was called Midnight Plane to Houston. And there's a really interesting story that goes along with this. So Jim Weatherly was an aspiring songwriter at the time, and he was living in Los Angeles and was playing in a flag football league of all things, with a guy by the name of Lee Major. And he and Lee became good friends. And about that time, Lee started dating someone, someone who would become a huge actor, Farrah Fawcett, who is most famously known for her role in Charlie's Angels. And
the old one, not the Bernie Mac one.
Right, yeah, the old one.
You're probably too young to actually know who Farrah Fawcett is.
But yeah, so Farrah Fawcett, huge celebrity. She was, I think most guys' crush back in the day. Yeah. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's, gorgeous lady. But anyway, so Jim Weatherly, the songwriter living in LA, becomes good friends playing flag football with Lee Major and his girlfriend, Farrah Fawcett. So he calls up Lee, his friend, one day, and Farrah actually answers the phone. And she says the phrase that, I'm packing up. I've got to go catch a midnight plane to Houston. Well, something in Jim's mind clicks. He's like, that's such a great name for a song. So he immediately, as soon as he got back, to his apartment or whatever, immediately wrote it down. And supposedly he wrote the song within an hour, which is pretty remarkable. And he actually cut a demo, recorded it himself. He had envisioned it really as a country song, actually, when he first wrote it. And at some point, it's not clear if his publisher sent it to make the rounds, or if someone reached out to him after he had recorded it. In any event, Sissy Houston, who is Whitney Houston's mother, caught wind of it and requested to record a version of it. But she wanted to make two subtle changes. She wanted it to be a train, and she wanted it to go to Georgia, not to Houston. So Sissy Houston was the one and the reason for why the song was changed from Midnight Plane to Houston to Midnight Train to Georgia. So Sissy Houston records it. It gets a little bit of fame, notoriety, not quite as much as the Gladys Knight version did. But Gladys Knight also heard the song, decided to record it. And being from Georgia, Gladys Knight is from Georgia as well as the Pips. She wanted to keep it as a train heading to Georgia. So pretty interesting story that led to its writing. But the song itself, it's a great song. We'll get into a little bit of the notoriety, or not notoriety, but the fame that's come with it. But it's a pretty simple storyline, as there seems to be a pattern. I seem to be picking pretty simple songs, but there's clearly a woman that's living in LA, and she's fallen in love with this man who's also living in LA. But he had moved to Los Angeles in hopes of pursuing a dream, presumably to become an actor, perhaps as a songwriter. There's a lot of things going on in LA. But ultimately his dream failed. He couldn't make it work. His aspirations fell short. And so he's trying to go back home to Georgia, to the place that's simple and place he knows. And this woman who's so in love with him, she can't stand the thought of being without him. And so she's heading on that midnight train back with him. So that's pretty much the song in a nutshell. It's not much more to it than that. we hear the chorus several times, and um, you know, it's there's nuggets built dropped in that refer to trains. It's a one-way ticket and all this such, but yeah, it's a great song. So as I said, Gladys Knight was not, and the Pips were not the first to record it, but their version was released in 1973. And the song actually debuted on the Hot 100 at number 71, and it did actually hit number one, where it stayed for 2 weeks. But it also won a Grammy for
And
Best
Bacon was
R&B.
their first number one also.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
It was
Yeah,
their first number one hit 8 weeks after it hit 71. So yeah, it was
yeah.
8 weeks after.
Okay. I didn't realize it was their first number one. So yeah, first number one. And as I say, it won a Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance by a duo, group, or chorus. And this song has been featured in countless movies and TV shows. It's been covered by several artists, including Aretha Franklin, Neil Diamond, Garth Brooks. And in many ways, Greg, I think this song has become Gladys Knight's signature song. She actually wrote in her memoir, and she's still touring, by the way, although obviously we're in COVID, so no one's touring these days. But
Yeah.
but she wrote in her memoir that she really hopes that this song can speak to the folks that do move to LA in an attempt to pursue their dreams, and that they can find comfort in it. So I think it's one of those songs that's had a lasting legacy, because I think it speaks to so many people that have, that for whatever reason aren't able to achieve their dream, but are constantly seeking it. And so, in contrast to the Train by OutKast, where they did achieve their dream, this is a song about not achieving your dream. And so I think with that, Greg, you want to?
Yeah, I don't want to like focus too much on that he's not achieving his dream, but like so I mean that's really what the song focuses on. But like he kept dreaming, like he even after he failed, like he kept dreaming that someday he'd be a star, but he was really finding out the hard way, which shows that he preferred to kind of be in that simple like place, because your dreams don't always come true. Like no matter how hard you try, there's some things that aren't possible. Like I would have loved to be in the NFL, but I definitely was not fast enough or strong enough. I would say that I was like maybe above average for the average like American person, but definitely not like NFL shape,
Yeah.
So and especially with the schooling route that I took, like I didn't have time to actually focus on school and like college football, so like it's not like something that I could actually focus on. And like that's a dream that sure, like would I like to be in the NFL? That would be super fun. But it's something that I can't see. But yeah, and then it goes back to just being in like the simple place, knowing what just going back to what So
yeah, and I mean that's a really great point. I mean, I think that's fair. We don't want to necessarily categorize everybody that moves to LA as being a failure, even if you don't achieve your dream. So yeah, that's a fair criticism of my analysis. But because we don't know. The song doesn't tell us, why he didn't achieve the dream. Maybe maybe he just ran out of money. Can't pay that month's rent.
Too, right? So like he could have gone. People can have multiple dreams too. So he could have gone to LA and like not made the dream there, but maybe there was a backup plan that was like, you know what? If that dream doesn't work out, like this other dream that I have is like good enough.
Absolutely.
It's like just as good as my going to LA, making it big type of dream. And maybe that works out for him. Right.
Yeah.
So, and like one thing I would like to kind of focus on is like the girl gets to live out her dream. Right. So
yeah, that's true. If her dream is if her dream is to be with him, absolutely.
Which it really makes it sound like she really wants to be with him. So like her dream maybe not that he wasn't successful, but more that she just got to be with him and that he
Yeah.
was back. So like they both got to be together. So like you can kind of spin it to her perspective also, and maybe it's not a failure. Maybe it is a success. You just
Yeah.
it depends
No,
really what your priorities are and your internal dreams are.
yeah, no, absolutely. And it is written from her perspective. And who's to say that she didn't become his dream too? We don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe his dream failed because he wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Like I know probably the point of the song is that like not everyone's gonna be able to get their dreams, but like was his backup dream just as good? Like was him coming back, did that make him just as happy?
Yeah.
Basically. So while the train from OutKast kind of focuses on the past and like what built up to this moment for Big Boy, really specifically for his future, I think this one kind of focuses more on like, sure, it focuses a little bit on the past that they failed, but like it focuses more on the future of like they're taking this midnight train together and
Yeah.
they're going on for their future.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting parallel, I think, between these two songs. So obviously Midnight Train to Georgia, the imagery within the song is very explicit in the fact that it's a train, right? They're on a physical train.
Yes.
Whereas the Train by OutKast, in fact, Train's only mentioned twice in the OutKast song. There is
It's mainly the chorus, really.
yeah.
And like the very beginning where it's like all aboard.
Yeah. But I think both songs, kind of have this arc to them, right? And they're going from point A to point B. And so there's this kind of implicit train that's implied by both songs.
Yeah, the train of life.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got multiple layers to it when we think about what is a train. Is it a locomotive that carries passengers and freight, or is it just this larger path of life that we're on?
Yeah, and I think both songs cover that great and just this different perspective, and I think both can give you like just something to either look forward to or look back on. So like with the Train by OutKast, so like just looking back at all of your past accomplishments, whether they're bad or good, like it brought you to where you're at. So like
Yeah.
what things did you experience when you started at point A that brought you to this point B? And with the train or with Midnight Train to Georgia, they kind of like focused a little bit on point A to point B, but now they're going point B, which is like wherever they're at, to point C, which is Georgia.
Yeah.
They're going to that future place together.
Yeah.
So I think they're both great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we're getting really good, or maybe we're just getting really lucky, Greg. I don't, but we seem to be do what?
At picking songs.
Yeah, and how they have so many similarities or overarching themes that really kind of overlap between the two, and I think that's what this podcast is about. So we're taking two different songs from different genres and mashing them up to see what those similarities and comparisons are.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, did you have any other comments for the songs?
No, I think, again, two great songs. I told you offline, Greg, before we met, I had never heard this song by OutKast before. I think we have yet to, I'm still waiting for that song that you picked that I've heard before. So, but we'll get there at some point.
There maybe one day. But song one day, so maybe you can know that one.
Yeah. But I'll say, I think of all the episodes we've done so far, though, I absolutely loved this song by OutKast, and I'm amazed.
If you really like it, I recommend checking out the album. Idlewild. Pick it up. It's really old. 2006. Don't worry about it.
So, but no, I think it was a great week. If you've never listened to the songs, go back, listen to them, play them, with now that you've heard this commentary, and hopefully you'll get an interesting perspective as you listen.
Yep.
So with that, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Send us an email. Our email, you can reach us at recordmashup@gmail.com. If you've got any questions, ideas, suggestions, songs you'd like to hear on the podcast or hear us talk about, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And yeah, anything else, Greg? Any last words?
No, just appreciate that you guys listened to us this week and the past couple of weeks. So yeah, that's all I got. Matt, what we have planned for next week?
Yeah, next week. So we're going to be doing, we're going to be hitting a little bit of a heavier topic next week. We're going to talk a little bit about illnesses and diseases as our theme. So I'm actually going to take on a song I absolutely love, Chandelier by Sia, which talks about the battles and the struggles with alcoholism. So how about you, Greg?
So I'll be hitting ADHD by Joyner Lucas. It's actually from his album called ADHD. Basically, he kind of talks about throughout the song and actually throughout the album too, like how he feels having ADHD and everything. And I'm gonna try and get my wife to be a guest next week. Hopefully, she'll join with us to kind of give us her perspective of her dealing with ADHD.
Absolutely, be great to have our first guest. So.
And someone who's has some experience with it, right? So
absolutely, give us some firsthand insight. So. All right, well, great. Well, thank you all again, and till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.